All right, for today, we're going to continue our discussion on Chapter 4. The application of overhead is the main new concept in Chapter 4. What I have listed here is exercise or example 3 in the book. Just as a review, the goal here is that we have budget dollars of overhead, and we're going to divide that by some budgeted level of activity. Again, we do this at the beginning of the year, before the year starts, to come up with a predetermined overhead rate is our new concept in Chapter 4. So that's what we're trying to come up with. And you can do it as a single rate for the whole company, or as this example shows, multiple rates within an organization based on that department. So that's kind of where we left off on Wednesday. Was it Wednesday already? And we're going to pick up there in that review process. For the class today, half of it will be discussion, just to get us into that groove again. And the last half will be for you to work on your CNOW assignments or quick study of your intermediate if you have that test coming up shortly. So, I left also last week with the discussion on your project problem. Problem 25, oh, how about 55, right? Which is worth 25 points. I actually wanted to see the relationship of the two numbers, labor to overhead. Because the first requirement for the project is to come up with this overhead rate, which they have you round a certain way to 4 places, and there's actually only 2. It rounds out to the second place. So you really don't need 4. But the goal here, guys, was to figure that out. This rate, which is the predetermined overhead rate. That was the goal here. Now, looking at the example I just showed you, what number is always on top? Of what? The dollar overhead, right? So that's what we have to be certain when we look at our project problem. What number's on top? Right? So don't make it backwards. Otherwise, none of your assignment will be correct. So I'm not going to compute the rate. You can do that on your own. If you have questions on this, let me know, right? But that's how we begin that project problem. What you're going to do then is take that rate, obviously, and then complete the job order cost sheets. Thank you, Walter. So you'll have a work in process section by job, and the application of that overhead using that rate is found on this worksheet. So that's what we're going to do today, is actually complete some job order cost sheets so that you're familiar with that process and how this should be completed for your 25-point problem. Okay, so let's do that today. Oh, when's the due date, guys?
11.
The 11th. Excellent. Thank you, Kershaw. I was in the wrong learning plan. I was right here. So March 11th is the due date on all the assignments, including the 25-point problem. Our exam will be a week from Wednesday, right before spring break. What a way to end, right? Well, wait a minute. Yes, 13. We don't meet anymore after that.
Yeah.
So we're good. Okay, so let's try, and I'm going to pick one here. Problem 57. This is in your book, page 206. We're going to complete a job order cost sheet. Remember, these are WIP. We're organizing our cost by job. So we're going to accumulate our cost dollars by job in the hopes that once the job is done, we're able to bill it out at an appropriate markup on cost. So can everyone find this? I don't think they're numbered. Somewhere in the packet. Oh, they are numbered.
Number 4.
Page number 4, thank you, of your packet. So, to get us back in the groove here a little bit, take a look at problem 57. What are we making? Tools. And they cross 3 departments: welding, assembly, and finishing. They're currently using machine hours as the plant-wide rate. So when the author talks about plant-wide, that means this company uses only one rate, and they're using as the driver of our overhead cost. They feel machine hours, the more hours I run my machine, the more cost I incur. So that is a very common driver for many companies. And they're looking at total machine hours, which is what for this problem? It's in that little table by department. You got to add them all up. How many machine hours do I have in the welding?
5,000.
5 plus 1 in the assembly.
6 and 2 and 8.
So a total of 8. So that's what we're coming up with, the denominator. The 8,000. We're just adding up those 3. Is everybody cool with that? Good? Okay. Again, a lot of the problems that you'll see on the test or in your homework, you've got to do a lot of reading to get to what numbers you need, right? Now, what do I use for my overhead? What's my denominator? What's my top number? It's always going to be dollars, right?
Overhead.
Of overhead. What did they estimate?
220,000, 62,000, and 100,000.
Yep. So I'm going to actually put these numbers down. Again, just in case you review these later. Assembly was 62. What was the last?
150.
250?
150.
150. That's our top number. So 370, 432 total. Is that good? 432?
Yep.
I'm dividing by 8, right?
Yeah.
And what's my rate?
54.
This is what your first job is on that 25-point problem, is to come up with that rate. Predetermined overhead rate. All right. We've got some information on two jobs, job 1 and 2. So our job order cost sheet for job number 1 has materials with a total of $6,725. So I'm just going to put that down here. Job 2, $9,340. Our labor, we're at $1,800 and $3,100. How we doing? And then finally, overhead. So this is what's new in chapter 4. And I'm going to add the word apply to that line, apply overhead. How do I apply overhead?
Use your rate to actually multiply the correct, the actual hour.
Yes, we're going to use our predetermined overhead rate, which is 54. That's what we determined before the year even started. This is the number we're going to use on every job based upon what's the driver?
The hours.
The hours. So I'm going to multiply this by the machine hours, and I want you to put the word actual on top. So now we're switching gears. The job is being worked on. I'm going to use this rate times the actual hours, which were how many?
50, 60, and 90.
Why did you take the 50, 60, and 90, Tom?
That's also the hour that actually use during the year.
And their machine hours, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not labor. Why is labor hours there? The 20, the 60, the 20.
Because some places do actually use labor.
Yeah, they use labor hours instead of machine hours. So here again, it's very common for students to make a mistake here. They grab the wrong hours. So it's another attempt at the authors trying to make sure you understand how this application works. It's not based on labor hours, it's based on machine hours. If I add those machine hours across all 3 departments, I've got 200, right?
Right.
So that's what I want you to put here. And if you look at job number 2, add those machine hours, what do you get? 200 again. Just by coincidence. These are machine hours for job number 2. Same rate because we only have one rate. 54 in this case. So 54 times 200 is how much?
10,800.
I have a subtotal. We're looking at 3 product costs in WIP, material, labor, overhead. That hasn't changed since we started the course. $19,325 for job 1.
Yep.
Does that look good? $23,240.
240. Yeah.
Just adding those up, right? What's our markup?
It says 35%.
35%.
That's a new one.
So we're looking right now. I'm actually gonna put that percentage.
And then like a dollar amount?
Yeah, they want a dollar amount here. So I'm just multiplying, right?
Mhm.
The 35% times our cost. Basically, it's a little over a third, so 6,000. Something.
6,763.75 cents. 6,716.75.
Can I just make it a 4?
Do you want to round it up?
Round it to the whole dollar. This is basically a bid. If I saw cents on a bid, I kind of questioned it. Really?
So do we want always round it up when it's a bid? To the-
No, I can't say that. Depends on what CNO wants.
Okay,
Most cases, when you're bidding a project, it's to the nearest dollar.
okay.
And 35% of the 23,240 is
8,134. 4.
that one. All right. And then we just simply add the two numbers together. This comes out to 25. 31. 374. Thank you, Teresa. All right. Couple questions here now. Can someone tell me? I'm just going to pick, it doesn't matter which job 1 or 2. Can someone tell me what's the journal entry I'm going to make to record the $10,800? What do I debit? What do I credit? Where is it going? Where is the 10,800 going into? WIP. Very good. Who said WIP? Diane? Excellent. So I'm going to, whoops, sorry. So I'm going to debit work in process, job number, I'm just going to pick 1, for $10,800. What's my credit going to?
Is this the control number?
Yes, that's the control number. Yes, the control. I think the author just uses overhead control.
Overhead control, yeah.
So you're the accountant. WPS gives you a utility bill. What's the journal entry then for the month of March? It's going to be high because it's cold. What's my journal entry to record a utility bill? What do I debit? I'm going to credit accounts payable because I'm putting it into my accounting system. But your job is to know where do I go with the debit.
Is it still WIP again?
Not WIP.
I think it's a control account.
It's the control account. Remember the control account, guys, is that little T account. I'm going to put manufacturing control, right? We did this last week, Wednesday. The actual dollars are debited over here. My applied dollars are are on the credit side, right? Did I not credit it here for 10,800?
Yes.
That's the applied amount. What do I do at the end of the month or year then?
You
I
adjust it.
reconcile, not adjust,
Oh,
reconcile it with an adjusting entry to close it out. So that's basically what we covered last week. Does everybody remember that?
Mm-hmm.
Kind of?
Coming back.
Coming back? Yes, that's what I'm hoping for. Any thoughts on that? My first job after leaving public accounting was doing job costing. A lot of places in Green Bay do job costing. So that's why there's lots of TSAs and cost. And this is the first one, project, in chapter 4 is our first TSA problem. So you have to know this. Okay? All right. Any thoughts on this? All right, let's try another method. Example 3 had us do department rates. This is what a lot of companies will do, and the reason we're using, instead of 1, we're using 3, is to see if we can be more accurate. 3 is better than 1. Remember, oops, that's not good. This adjustment, do we want this adjustment to be very big?
No.
No. We want to be as small as we possibly can to be more accurate. That's what we're talking about here. You certainly don't want to, at the end of the year, to tell your boss, I have a $100,000 entry to make, and it's going to decrease our income by $100,000 on one entry. That's not good. Okay? Your boss will say, what are you doing? So, let's go with the amounts. Welding had 220. Assembly 62. And 150. Looks like an 8, sorry guys. Extend this up. The author picked the drivers for each department on the right. So we're looking at machine hours for the welding, which makes sense. You're running a welding machine. I can track those hours. The assembly is actually using the labor hours. And then finally the finishing, again, you're using grinding or whatever tumbling equipment to finish it, is a back to machine hours. So for totals then, we had 5 for welding. We switched in the assembly to labor, which is how many hours? 10. Very good. So here's again a very common mistake area, grabbing the wrong numbers. And then back to machine for finishing at what? 2. Very good. Excellent. Those are our rates now, our predetermined. What does pre mean? The preface pre, what does that mean?
Oh, before.
Before the year starts. You come up with these rates before the year starts. So who can help me with these?
44 for the first one. 620 for the second one.
Oh yeah, I could have done that one.
And the last one's 75.
75, right? Very good. Excellent. So going to page number 5 in our template, right? We're going to start with the same information. Remember, under normal costing, actual material, actual labor cost. So 67.25. Labor's at 1,800. $93.40 and 3,100. Tom, what was our rate for our revenue department again?
44.
44. And it was 620.
Yeah.
And then 75. So I'm debiting WIP, I'm crediting the control for every hour of overhead.
Aren't those, isn't that supposed to be 62? Because it's, I think it's only 1,000 for machine hours, not 10.
Oh, careful, Catherine. That's, good question. Sorry, guys. Catherine's questioning the 10 here. She thinks 1,000 should be here, but I think it's 10, is it not?
It is 10 because
Because
it's
it's-
labor hour.
That's direct labor.
Direct labor? The driver is direct labor, not machine.
We print with the machine
Oh.
hour. Yeah.
Okay,
Right?
I didn't know. I didn't even read that.
What Catherine did is what happens on the exam. Very easy, right?
Mhm.
Everybody catch that.
Why does it do labor hours for that then instead of machine hours?
Because it's in the assembly.
Oh,
It's a better match of effort, activity, that I can track much easier
okay.
than a machinery. Good questions. I like it. I'm going to get paid bonus today. Thanks, Catherine. Keep it going. I can pay for my glasses. I'm hoping I'm going to get this week.
That's good.
All right. Love it. Love it. So, now, here's another possible mistake. Right? We're going to use actual hours of some sort. So, welding is machine hours. So is finishing. We better make sure we're using the actual labor hours once we get to our assembly department. Now with job 1, in welding, what number do I use? Looking at the table, table's kind of tricky. What number do I put here for job 1?
50.
50, very good. How about job 2?
Or 50 for that one too.
50 for that one too? Good. Excellent. Let's just keep going down the column here. Going to our next department, assembly, what hours do I use for job 1?
60.
Awesome. And?
20.
Excellent. Right?
20. Correctly.
Ye, careful. Right?
You're getting all kinds of bonuses today.
I know. Awesome. And then finally, we're back to what?
90.
90 and 125. Excellent. I'll move this up so we can see it better for those in back. Can't see my numbers too well, so tell me if I'm getting these right. Am I good so far?
Yes.
Okay. Now, for job one then, we add up the entire column, starting with material. We add our labor and all of our overhead together. And then, same markup at 35%. I guess I'm going to go in the green area here. 17,847 is what I got for my cost in my job one job order cost sheet. How's my math, guys? So far, so good? 24,139 is my cost for job two. I'm going to put the markup in blue at 35%. And just round it again to the whole dollar amount. I'm going to move it up again so those in back can see. Am I good so far? Austin, good.
How'd you get the 35%?
The author will tell you.
Oh, okay.
It's in the paragraph underneath the data. It says
Oh, I see that.
the typical bid price is 35%.
Okay, thank you.
Again, the author doesn't lay it out always in a good fashion. You have to kind of find it in the paragraphs. So do the best you can. And then we add them up. Isn't math awesome, guys? So much fun. I'm just adding. I'm sure you guys got those numbers, right? Am I good?
Yes.
Did I carry my one properly? Excellent. When I added, awesome. Now, looking at pages 4 and 5. What were 4's numbers here? What were page 4's numbers? For job one, what did we have?
26,089.
2689, and Michelle, what's the other one?
31,374.
So roughly a $2,000 difference in job one, and roughly 1,200. in job 2. So we're off about 10%. And we're off about 5%. Are those a lot? Which number is right? Maybe I should ask that question first. This is that analytical thinking that you're supposed to be getting while you're in school. Which number is right? Page 4 numbers or this page 5 numbers?
Page 5 is a lot more accurate, because you have a lot more data to work with.
We hope page 5 numbers are more accurate,
Yeah.
right? It's a trick question. They're both right,
Mm-hmm.
right? Based on how we apply overhead. We won't know until we reconcile the manufacturing overhead control at the end of the year. Is it a big difference between our actual overhead versus our applied overhead? How big is that difference? How big is that difference? So that's what companies will look at. They'll look at their application rates every year and see if they can get this difference as small as they possibly can. That's the goal, right?
Mm-hmm.
We would hope that this is a better answer, right? Because we're departmentalizing our overhead rate. We're using assembly. Would it make sense to use labor hours
Yeah.
versus machine hours?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, makes sense, makes common sense. So that's the goal as an accountant, is to get it more accurate. What else is a concern here with this difference? Do you think I'm going to get job 1 if I use this number from a customer? Probably not. I probably would get job 2, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's lower. But am I going to make money on it? No, not as much anyway,
Yeah.
right? So you can't be too high and you can't be too low. Both are bad, is what I'm trying to get at with my bids. It's very stressful, a bid. It truly is.
Sounds like that.
Especially when you add 3 more zeros on those numbers. Now you're looking at 2 million and 3 million. Then it's very serious. And when you've lost 2 jobs before to the same competitor, Anthony's up. And then we're looking at our employees and there's nothing there for them to do. Then it puts a little more pressure on you to get this bid right. So it's very difficult. So, what do you think? Let's look at our problem, because this is the TSA one. I'm going to shrink this down a little bit. I'm just showing you the layout, so let me do this. Because again, sometimes it's a little confusing. One thing that our last problem did not have was a beginning balance. And I see this sometimes on the test. Students will grab the current information and will forget to add. What did we do last month on this project, right? On this job.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what CNOW is trying to get you to do, is don't forget that you have beginning balances on the first 3 jobs here. So don't forget that. I'm going to clear this ink because it's just in the way. 1,024, 1910, and 3621 are your beginning balances. And you'll notice that we started during the month Jasper and Dashiell jobs. So we have a total of 5 jobs now that we're working on, and that's what this table will guide you, which is our job order cost sheet. There are 5 jobs here that you have to compute the total cost of the job is. Okay? Then it says, what is the ending balance in our WIP? What is the cost of our goods sold in the month of January? We got to get to that point shortly. And then finally, you'll develop an income statement based upon our cost of goods sold amount. So that's the tasks that you'll have to go through for the project. And the selling price is cost plus 30%, right? So we had in our example 35. So that's how we get the sales price, right? This bid price that we just did here is the sales price. Now, could I have you turn in your book to page 173? It's Appendix A. It's our journal entries. Actually, it's 173, 174. These are all the journal entries that you will be responsible for on your problems and exam, obviously. Can I have you look at number 7 on page 174? This is the one that gets most students in trouble. Look at number 7. What's happening in number 7? Number 7. What's the journal entry about?
So backpacks on account,
Yep.
so we had to put that journal entry and then credit, or take care of what was in with the finished goods and the cost of goods sold.
Right, it's a job that we finished. We bid out at 50% of cost, right?
Mhm.
So if I took 2320 times it by 50% is 1160. I add 1160 to the 2320 and voila, I get 3480. What's a quicker way to get that 3480? Multiply by what?
6%.
No, 50. E says 1.5 or 150%.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, that's what I would like you to do. On these jobs, including our last problem, you could have, right, taking the cost of 17,847, multiplied it by 1.35, and I would have gotten 24,093. Remember doing that in applications and procedures? That's what we're doing here. You can take the markup. The 1 represents the cost, right? The 35 represents the markup of the cost. That's why we're multiplying by 1.35 instead of by 0.35. Is everybody clear on that?
Yes.
2 ways to do it, right? What of these 2 numbers? What's my journal entry to record the sale? Let's say I did sell it for the amount here.
Sales will be the bottom one.
Sales is this number. I can't tell you how often I've seen students put the wrong number on this entry. What's my cost of goods sold?
The top number.
The 17 is my cost of goods sold number. Here's an intermediate question. What's my gross margin then?
It's the difference.
It's the difference. How much is my gross margin? In dollars. It's 6,000 something.
6,246.
46 for markup.
The markup. If you divide by, right? What am I getting if I divide by the selling price? I'm getting a margin percentage, which is what?
About 26%.
We marked it up 35. How did we get 25? Did I do something wrong? And the answer is no. But remember, I'm dividing by a much bigger number, right?
Yeah.
So based on sales, it's 25%. Markup on cost is different than markup on sales. Just be aware of that. So on the income statement, I'm only showing an actual margin of 25%. Big difference.
Say that again, why?
Because look at the number that I'm using in my denominator versus my markup was
Oh,
based
got
on
it,
that
got it,
number,
got it.
it's 17, right? So most companies will mark up their cost by 100% for some big number because they know once it hits the income statement, it's much smaller based on sales. Because that's what the banker is going to look at, right? 25%, that's pretty small. Because what comes after this margin number? Intermediate question again. What kind of expenses come after the margin?
Operating expense.
Not, well, which administration expenses or selling expenses, right? So you gotta sell a lot of stuff to make money at this kind of market. You guys tired? You wanna keep going? Nobody said no. All right, let's do another problem quick. You will be responsible for the exam to know what a material requisition form is. Well, it's basically for materials, right? It's got the word in it. This is on page 162. So know what a material requisition form is. Most companies now use barcodes. We don't have paper forms. So what an employee will do, they'll have a job order cost sheet in front of them. They call it a traveler, that it follows the job throughout the production cycle. They'll scan the barcode on the material. They'll scan the job number, put the quantity in that they're taking, and then that's applied to the job. This is the old way, where they actually had paper copies, and they'd have 20 accountants putting these papers together and come up with a job order cost sheet before Excel and all those great programs.
One of you, not as efficient.
Can you imagine somebody at GM in the accounting department? They had thousands of employees, just in accounting. What do you think of time tickets for? Labor hours by job. Remember, we got to assign everything by job. So that too, barcodes, employees have a barcode, they punch in their time, and then it's applied to the job automatically. All right, and then finally, there should be a job order cost sheet is the final one. That document is what we have here, right? This is what we have here. This is the last problem I want to do today because it identifies this big question, which is on your 25-point problem, number 4. what is the balance in our WIP account at the end of the month? What is the balance of our WIP account at the end of the month? So the problem we are looking at is 43. Yeah, page 6 of your handout, page 6. Now they make the job a little longer than what it really needs to be, because they want us to figure out the labor hours first. So I'm going to start with 93, 94, 95, 96. So just put some headings up here with the 4 job numbers. And we have to take the labor cost, 2160. $5,400. I'm just getting these from the problem. The author gave us the labor cost for each job, 2610. And the last one is 900. So what is the author, what is this company doing to apply their overhead?
$8 plus labor hours?
Walter, what's the rate that they're using? Did they give us a rate? Or do we have to figure it out?
It says $8.
Oh, Michelle found it. It says the rate is what, Michelle?
It says they apply overhead at the rate of $8 per direct labor hour. And then it says direct labor wages average 18 per hour.
So where does the where am I going to use the 18 then?
The actual.
I got to use the 18 up here. So are we understanding why we're doing this? What am I hoping to gain here?
This is the direct labor.
The hours, right? Right. So that I can use the hours to do what with it?
Body rate and overhead.
Yes. I'm going to take those labor hours and I'm going to multiply it by the $8 per hour. Right? So what is our predetermined overhead rate for this company? It's going to be $8 per labor hour. So let's try it. How many hours do I have here in job 93? 2160 divided by 18 is
120.
120. I'm going to take the 120 times it by 8 and I get 960. Now I add my beginning cost, which was, it's in the paragraph, $87.50. Does everybody see where that came from? I can tell you right now, a lot of students miss this on the test. They forget, because the C-now question will be, what is the total cost of job number 93? And students forget to look in the paragraph for the beginning, where that $87.50 is. You see how easily that could be missed? So I'm giving a big warning there. I'm trying to make you aware that it's very easy to miss a number on the test. Now we add our materials and labor. Those are given to us. $950 for materials, $2160 for labor. $12,800 is our total. 820, I'm sorry. 820. 12,820. Go ahead, guys. Do the rest of the remaining 3 jobs on your own. I will also be doing it on my end. I'm going to stop my recording, and then we'll come back once we're done. So I'm going to add these up. That's right.
That's correct.
All right. Finally, we get to question 4. We've got our job order cost sheets done on problems 2 and 3. Question 4, it says, calculate the balance in WIP on August 31st. This too is a very common question on the test. So we have to look at whether the job is completed or unfinished. Remember, work in process means they're not complete. They are unfinished. So we're looking for the jobs that are not done. Which jobs are not done at the end of the month?
94, 95, and 96.
94 is not done, 95 is not done, 96 is not complete. So at that point, if I know these 3 are not done, we would add those 3 up. And, Michelle, do you have a total there?
29,270.
How do we know that they're not done?
Yeah, again, in the problem.
Oh, it says right here, never mind. They're all done in process. Okay, gotcha.
All other jobs remained in process. Yeah, very good. Here again, it's very easy to lose a job, not included in the total, right? So be careful with this question. Let's keep going. Finished goods had a beginning balance, they didn't tell us any different, of 0. We completed job number 93, so we took it out of WIP, put it into finished goods, and right away we sold it. Comes out of finished goods, and we have a balance of 0. And obviously our cost of goods sold is, since there's only one job, we don't have to add any together, right? And what's our markup for this job 93?
40%.
40%
Of cost.
of cost?
Yep.
So what's the quick way to do it? Multiply the cost by what number?
1.4.
1.4, right? Cost is the 1, 0.4 is the markup. And again, round to the whole dollar if it doesn't come out. Oh, it does come out nicely, doesn't it? So the answer to question 5 is I'm going to sell it for $17,948. Catherine?
Scroll back up. I don't think I got the right numbers for 930.
93 job? Did I add up wrong?
No, I put 8,570 instead of 750.
Oh. Got it. Here, it may be a good idea on your test to show your work if there are computations. I know Walter did it last time, to help me find where possibly you made a math error versus an actual technical error, so to speak. Any gray areas that you can think of at this point? What's my journal entry here? Oops. The author says, transfer job 93. I'm just going to put warehouse. I don't know if that's a good word. To storage or whatever. What's my journal entry? In number 4 here, what's my journal entry to transfer in? What does this mean? What's my debit and what's my credit? It's not a sale, right?
No,
It's happening before the sale. So I've completed my job, what's my entry?
it should be finished good.
Finished goods, right? And I'm going to credit WIP. And again, job order costing has us identify, it's by job, right? We're accumulating costs by job number in this case. So 12,820. What's my sale entry? We'll end here. What's my sale entry in question 5? 2 parts. What's my first part?
Cost of goods sold
Good.
and finished goods,
For how much?
12,820.
Very good, Michelle.
And then, depending on whether it's
Let's
receivable
say
or cash,
on account or cash, yep.
17,948 and revenue.
Very good. Excellent. Appendix A, you must know those journal entries for this exam. All the really cool kids, they laminate those 2 pages. Say that as a souvenir. You have it then on for your test. So, there should be no reason that we miss those on the test, those entries, because they're right there. Okay. So this is what's happening when you're doing your QuickBooks and you write out an invoice to a customer. You, as the accountant, have to be sure that these are the debits and credits that are happening when you hit that save button, right? I've had so many clients that they just make invoices and they have no clue where the numbers are going to on their financials. And then at the end of the month, when their income is at negative 50,000, they're freaking out. Right?
Yeah.
It happens. It's easy to use QuickBooks. Or
It's easy to make a
Sage,
mistake too.
right? Doesn't matter. And then the boss looks at you, where'd you go with the money? I've had that happen to me. So it's very serious stuff. All right. Let's stop here. And you've got a good hour to work on your homework if you'd like to, if not more, hour and a half. or if you really want to prepare for your intermediate test, that's more high priority, certainly do so as well. On Wednesday then, we will continue our practice. Again, I'm going to try to relate what we're doing here to what you'll be doing in practice if you were working for a job shop organization. So that is my goal here.